shoot. That because modified, we see that because this flower performs sexual reproduction in the plants. Now, the term is the sexual reproduction. For the plants, plants have generative part, generative part, and vegetative part. Generative part and vegetative part. And both the parts, generative and the vegetative, participate in the reproduction. The vegetative part basically participate in the asexual reproduction, and the generative part is participate in the sexual reproduction. Now the flower is the generative part. Flower is the generative part of the plant. Means if we talk about the reproduction, what is the reproduction? Reproduction is the basically the process of continuation of the species. Now when plant start to reproduce themselves, they reproduce by vegetative method as well as the generative method. The flower is the generative part, means in which the sexual reproduction have to takes place. Now the generative part of the plant is root, stem and leaf. Means, for example, if we talk about the example leaf, bryophyllum, that grows from the leaf, the stem, rhizome, tuber, for example ginger, and stem of the root, stem of the rose. Okay? And then now the root, from the root the plant like carrot and radish grows. Now these plant like carrot, radish, stem of the rose and bryophyllum give rise from the vegetative part, and the plant that forms seed grows from the flower and the generative part. Now if we talk about the flower have, what have the flower, what flower had? Flower have sepal, petal, stamen and carpel. These four are the parts of the flower: sepal, petal, stamen and the carpel. These four also called whole of the flower. Whole of the flower. Whole of the flower. In which the sepal is greenish. Sepal is greenish, and because it is green due to the chlorophyll. Now this chlorophyll help in the photosynthesis. Help in the photosynthesis, and also we can say these sepal protect the plant. Protect the plant or the floral organ. Means petal. Now the petal is the colorful. Now the petal is the colorful because it basically attracts the agent. Now insect. Attract the agent. Then the petals are colorful, sepal are the greenish which are lower than the petal, and the petal are above the part. Now the stamen are male part. Stamen are the male part of the flower, and carpel are the female part of the flower. Female part of the flower. And the male part of the flower. Yeah, the flower have the four parts: sepal, petal, stamen and carpel. Sepal are greenish, petals are colorful, stamen are the male part of the flower, and carpel are the female part of the flower. If a flower have all stamen as well as carpel, if the flower have stamen as well as carpel, then the flower is said to be bisexual. Flower is said to be bisexual flower, means it contains both male as well as female flower. And if the flower have sepal, petal, stamen and the carpel, it is also called complete flower. It is also called complete flower. Complete flower. Or in the term, it is called monoecious. And it is also called monoecious condition. Monoecious for bisexual, means the single flower contains both male and female parts. Now, if the flower have either stamen or either carpel, the flower have either stamen or either carpel, it is said to be staminate or pistillate. Staminate or pistillate. These terms basically define unisexuality. These terms basically define unisexuality of flower, or we can say that the flower is a dioecious. The flower is a dioecious. Now, what is the flower? The flower is the generative part of the plant in which sexual reproduction have to occur, and the flower have these organs called floral organ or the whole of the flower. If the flower have all the parts, sepal, petal, stamen and the carpel, it is called bisexual. If the flower have either stamen, carpel along with the accessory part, means the sepal, petal are the accessory part. Means if they are not present, the flower will complete their reproduction. If the flower didn't have a stamen or the carpel, the reproduction won't be occurs. The reproduction won't be occurs because in the male part of the flower, male gamete form, and the female part of the flower, that is the female gamete form. Now, if we talk about the stamen, the stamen is the male part. The stamen is the male part. Before that, we have to know that how these plants reproduce. There is a term in which there is a term sporophytic phase, and a gametophytic phase. Sporophytic phase and gametophytic phase. We know that angiosperm is a diplontic life cycle. Angiosperm have diplontic life cycle. Angiosperm have diplontic life cycle, which means that the plant, or we can say that the plant have alternation of generation also. Alternation of generation. It means that flower have to go under the sporophytic phase and the gametophytic phase. For both these sporophytic and gametophytic phase, plant in these two processes, the plant form their spore and their gamete. In the sporophytic phase, what will happen? In the sporophytic phase, there is a spore which comes from the meiosis. So the meiosis is sporic meiosis. The spore is formed and it is haploid, which originate from a diploid structure, obvious, and the spore give rise to gamete male and female. These gametes fuse and they form a zygote, which is a diploid in nature, and this zygote give rise to seed. Means the plant is diploid, and the spore is haploid, which obvious occurs from a diplontic stage. Means this spore originate from a diploid structure. Now, in the angiosperm plant, the stamen, here what did first occur? That is sporophytic phase, and later on that is the gametophytic phase. Means a spore forms first, and after that spore give rise to a gamete. In the stamen, or it is also called group it is called androecium. Stamen or androecium. Now the stamen have three parts: anther, filament, and connective. Anther, filament, and connective. The structure is, it is anther. This thing that join the two anther, that is connective. And the long stalk-like structure is called filament. These filament help anther to attach to the receptacle of the flower. Receptacle means base of the flower to attach. The filament help to attach the stamen to the base of the flower. Now the anther is the fertile, connective is the sterile, and filament help to attachment. If we talk about the anther, what is the role of the connective? It connects the two lobes of the anther. Filament attaches the anther to the base of the flower. Connective connects two lobe of the anther. Now anther is fertile, and in this anther a sporophytic phase as well as gametophytic phase occurs. The anther is bilobed. The anther have pollen sac or microsporangia. It have microsporangia or pollen sac in which pollen grains are formed. The microsporangia or in which the pollen grains are formed. It is bilobed means it is two lobe, one lobe it is that, and second lobe like this, and in the inside the lobe there is a microsporangia or pollen sac. Inside the macrosporangia is formed from a division of mitosis, and it is made up of microsporangia is made up of microsporangia have layers. The layers are epidermis. The layers are epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, and tapetum. These layers, epidermis, endothecium, and middle layer, have been protection. But this tapetum provide nourishment. Nourishment to whom? Nourishment to developing pollen grains. Means the pollen grain are basically spore. The pollen grains develop inside the anther and they get nourishment from the tapetum. And one more thing about the tapetum, it is a polyploid. Tapetum polyide is polyploid. It is multinucleate. And they are polyploid. The layer is epidermis, endothecium, middle layer. Now inside the anther, there is a tissue, there is a cell that is called MMC or PMC. It is a diploid cell, megaspore mother cell or pollen mother cell. These cell undergoes a division called meiosis, and they form 4 haploid cells. They form 4 haploid spores. And these haploid spores are pollen grains. These haploid spores are pollen grains, and this whole process is called microsporogenesis. Which is occur inside the anther. Means the anther have a microsporangia or the pollen sac. Microsporangia have 4 layers: epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, tapetum. Tapetum provide nourishment. Now inside these microsporangia there is a cell called megaspore mother cell or pollen mother cell, which undergoes meiosis process, and the meiosis is a sporic meiosis. And this sporic meiosis occurs inside the plant for the formation of the gametophyte structure. The meiosis forms 4 haploid spores. The 4 haploid spores are pollen grains. And the formation of pollen grains from the PMC, it is called microsporogenesis. The pollen grains are male gametophyte. Now from here the gametophytic phase starts. Now their whole process is spotophytic phase, in which meiosis occurs to form spores, and after that the pollen grains is formed, and the pollen grain is the first male gametophyte, which occurs inside the chambers of the anther. And there are 4 pollen sacs. That's why the anther is also called tetrasporangiate. Or in the single lobe contains theca. That's why it is also called dithecous anther. Theca means cavity. And inside it there is a 4th chamber that is called tetrasporangiate pollen grains. Now, if we talk about the pollen grain, the pollen grains are the first male gametophytic structure which contain half number of chromosomes. The confusion is that it arises from the meiosis, but it is a spore. A spore means it is a dust-like structure that originates in the anther, and after the bursting of anther, it releases into the atmosphere. After pollination, when pollen grains goes to the stigma, goes to the stigma. In 40% of plant, these pollen grain when reaches the stigma, then it germinate into a male gamete. But in 60% flowering plant, the pollen grain start to divide by mitosis. Pollen grains divides by mitosis process and give rise to a two cell, that is one generative cell and a vegetative cell. One generative cell and a vegetative cell. The vegetative cell also called a tube cell because it is large in size and it provides nourishment to the generative cell, because generative cells are spindle in shape. They are spindle in shape and they get nourishment from the vegetative part. Vegetative cell are the large cell or tube cell. These two cells form after the mitosis of the pollen grains, and hence we can say that the gametophyte become mature. Now after that vegetative cell disappear, vegetative cell form and generative cell start division one more time, undergoes mitosis and it form two male gametes. Two male gametes, or we can say it is sperm of male plant. Sperm of male. Yeah, two male gametes are formed from the generative cell. The two male gamete and the vegetative cell concluded into a three-celled stage.